He appeared calm, intelligent, even trustworthy. He studied law, volunteered on political campaigns, spoke with confidence. But behind that public image was a pattern investigators struggled to understand. How did someone who blended in so easily become one of the most studied criminal cases in American history? And what did investigators eventually discover about the psychology behind the mask? Ted Bundy was born in 1946 and raised primarily in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Accounts from his early life suggest he was intelligent and socially capable. He attended the University of Washington, where he studied psychology. Those who knew him described him as articulate and ambitious. He volunteered in political campaigns and appeared invested in a conventional future. Yet psychologists later noted something more complex. He demonstrated strong impression management, the ability to shape how others perceived him. This capacity to adapt socially would later complicate investigations. During the 1970s, multiple disappearances of young women were reported across Washington, Utah, Colorado, and Florida. Authorities initially struggled to connect the cases. Jurisdictional boundaries limited information sharing between states. Witnesses often described a polite man asking for assistance, sometimes pretending to have an injury. This detail became central to psychological analysis. Experts later suggested it reflected manipulative behavior rooted in control and deception rather than impulsive violence. The pattern revealed premeditation. It also revealed calculated risk-taking. Bundy appeared to rely heavily on charm and perceived normalcy as tools. In 1975, Bundy was arrested in Utah after a traffic stop raised suspicion. Evidence gradually linked him to earlier disappearances. Investigators began to see a consistent behavioral signature. He often revisited locations. He inserted himself into investigations. He followed media coverage closely. These behaviors reflected a desire not only for control, but for recognition. Psychologists later emphasized that his actions suggested narcissistic traits combined with antisocial personality characteristics. In 1979, Bundy made the unusual decision to represent himself in court during his Florida trial. This choice allowed him to remain at the center of attention, even as evidence mounted. Public discussion often focuses on numbers, but investigators focused on motive. Bundy later gave interviews suggesting exposure to violent material influenced him. However, experts caution that external media alone cannot explain criminal behavior. Research indicates a combination of personality structure, lack of empathy, and reinforcement of control-seeking behavior. The lesser discussed angle is his strategic patience. He avoided detection for years not because he was invisible, but because systems were disconnected. Before digital databases, law enforcement agencies operated largely independently. Information sharing was slow. His case became a catalyst for change. Bundy was convicted in Florida and sentenced to death. He was executed in 1989. In later interviews, he alternated between confession and deflection. His shifting narratives complicated efforts to determine definitive motive. What remains consistent is the psychological pattern: manipulation, image control, and calculated deception. The case contributed to major procedural changes. Law enforcement agencies improved interstate communication systems. The development of centralized databases gained urgency. Behavioral profiling units expanded their research. The case also reshaped public awareness. It challenged assumptions about what danger looks like. Perhaps the most enduring lesson is this: criminal behavior does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind competence and charisma.